name's Colin. I'm 54, grew up here in San Francisco, and I think I've dealt with suicide ideation and suicide thoughts since I was a teenager. I don't know where they came from. I'm the youngest of four boys. I have a good family. I have a great mother, father, brothers, everybody. Seems to be somewhat adjusted okay. But for me, there was just there was something missing. There was some type of pain inside. I don't know where it came from. I started drinking and using drugs at a really early age, and I think that that affected my forward progress. I'm the only boy that didn't really go to college. I dropped out and started working at a young age, and I think the one thing that saved me is I started surfing. And that gave me some type of meaning, some type of purpose. There was just, there was an angriness, there was a pain inside, and I was able to take it out when I surfed. I was also able to take it out when I worked, as a roofer. And I just loved to tear roofs off. It's just something that it made me feel good. I didn't mind the physical pain that came with the job. And physical pain never bothered me, but it's the emotional pain. I was cutting too at a very early age, and that later on turned into like stabbing and really deep slicing. And a lot of that came around my head and my face, so I could look in the mirror and locate the pain. So we're out here at the Golden Gate Bridge, which is a very, it's an iconic, beautiful spot for all the tourists, but it's also an iconic destination for people who want to kill themselves. I grew up surfing out at this spot right here, so it has a lot of beautiful memories. I have a Golden Gate Bridge tattooed on my stomach, so I'm very connected to this bridge. So on August 16, 2020, I was using some methamphetamine, and I slipped into a bit of a psychosis. And the only way I thought to get out was just to end my life. So I drove out to the Golden Gate Bridge. I parked in the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge during rush hour traffic, climbed over the edge, and had just looked down with my toes hanging over. There was nothing underneath me but water. I was also covered in blood because I was sliced my face up, and other parts of my body. So my chest and my face were all bloody. But a cyclist jumped off his bike and tried to grab for me. But in that moment, he started cursing at me and yelling at me, and it kind of pissed me off. So I started arguing with him, right? But he started a conversation with me, and in that conversation, it just stopped me. I knew that I was going to go, but I thought in that moment I just wanted to let him know, to tell my family that this was my way to stop the pain that I've been living with for so long. What that pain is for and where it came from, I truly don't know. It's just, sometimes it's just a pain. To put a finger on it or to make an explanation, come up with a reason where it came from or a certain incident in my life, I can't do that. I had a pretty good childhood. Of course, a couple things happened in my childhood that weren't necessarily nice, but I'm a survivor, right? I just kind of compartmentalize that shit and put it away. But just, always kind of wanting more of a reason to be alive and kind of having a greater purpose. I just didn't have that. And everything wore thin real quick. I get interested in things and I'd lose my interest. So back to August 16, 2020, I parked my car in the bridge. The middle of the Golden Gate Bridge is where I parked. Immediately they shut down the entire bridge. It's rush hour traffic. I don't know if it was on a Friday or not, but so I'm out there for about a half hour just hanging off the edge, and I knew I was going to go, and they tried to talk me into coming back in, but I wasn't. I knew that it was my time. I looked down. There's about 6 boats circling down below. There's people hanging over the bridge on other sides. It's a 3-ring shit show, and that part irritated me because I didn't want that attention. I just wanted to climb out of my car and jump and go, but I hesitated. And then I heard a voice, and that voice said, Colin. And I knew that voice. That was my brother's voice. So I turned around. My brother's laying on the ground with tears in his eyes and his hands reaching through the bars. And he just says, Colin, grab my hand, come back over. And in that moment, whatever darkness was inside of me had left. It was a spiritual awakening. It just left. And I knew that I was coming back over. So my brother's a lieutenant in the fire department. And there's cops, firemen, CHP everywhere. And it's protocol, when you climb back over the edge, the first thing they do is they jump on you and they handcuff you and subdue you, right? But I looked at my brother and I says, hey, I'm coming over myself. Don't let no one touch me, right? You know, and whatever he did, he turned around and he says, he backed everyone up. He says, back up, he's coming in. I came over, no handcuffs or nothing. They, of course, I ended up in the psychiatric hospital, and then tried to start working on myself and did some work on that. But that wasn't the end of my journey with a suicide. And on September 16th of 2021, a little more than 2 weeks ago, I fell into a desperate state, and the only way I thought out was to kill myself. So I purchased enough fentanyl to kill probably a couple dozen people, and I sat in an alleyway, redwood, dead-end alleyway off Franklin Street, Franklin and McAllister. I cooked up the fentanyl and injected the fentanyl in my arms and died. The paramedics showed up. They pronounced me dead on arrival because what that means is I did not respond to any life-supporting techniques. They shot me with Narcan. They got nothing. They tried CPR. They got nothing. So what they do is they tag you and bag you. They put you in the ambulance and they drive you to the hospital. So it's protocol for them to try one more time to save your life. And in that last attempt to save my life, they got a response. Today, actually, on October 6th, was the first day that I went back to that alley. I went back to that alley and I knelt down and I kind of said a prayer, not for myself and not thanking for my life, but a prayer just for anyone else who's going through that, those feelings, right? You know. And although a lot of my stuff revolves around drug addiction and a life spent in prison, and just feeling like I've wasted a lot of time, suicide is a real thing, and anyone can deal with it at any time. And I know when I was dealing with my suicide thoughts and attempts, there was nothing anybody could say or do that was going to change my mind. Especially someone who's not been through what I've been through or felt what I felt. But I know in that moment, if somehow I was to connect with someone who had been there and who knew those feelings, right? Those feelings of, it's just hard to even put words on those type of feelings. But that may have been a pivotal point where I could have reached out and kind of grabbed onto that hand, right? You know, and been able to work through that, just knowing that someone else had been there. Suicide is real. It's it's a solution to a problem that you just can't solve. And I think me being more problem orientated and not solution orientated, that's why I always tried to solve that problem with suicide. But it's painful. It's painful living with that, with those memories. But I know what happened is when I just remember standing up and then falling down. The next thing I remember, it's like I was encased in black liquid and nothing existed. And I didn't even know that until I came out of that black liquid when they first got some life back in me. But it did, but then it sucked me back down. I came up and down 3 or 4 times. But I know that everything that is here, this light, this bridge, these colors, the feeling of the wind on the back of my neck, hunger, love, joy, pain, struggle, all that stuff ceases to exist. And everything I was trying to solve didn't get solved because it just ceases to exist. And everyone has their own experiences with death, but I know I was dead. And what was on the other side? I mean, hopefully this isn't a shock, but what I experienced was absolutely nothing. There's nothing there. Everything is here. This is it. This is life. This is all we get. This is a one-shot deal. It's not that I get to kill myself and maybe come back as someone else or something else, or a porpoise, or a peasant Chinese woman in 20 or 30 years. That's it. The energy. The only thing I leave behind is all my pain and sorrow, and that was for everyone who's ever loved me. And even if you don't have anyone who loves you, there's people. That pain and sorrow gets transferred to someone. Maybe the person who has to scoop your body out of the water, or the paramedic that picks you up dead. Your energy transfers into those people. So there is another way, and it's not going to be the easiest way, and it's going to take some work, but it's better than absolute nothing. Someone is in that room and struggling with whatever, you can relate. And it takes love and compassion, to be there with someone when they're trying to, when that thought is in their mind. And that's a dark place. The United States penitentiaries, which is the maximum security federal prisons, are a dark place. A lot of people end up there that can't really handle it. They're not cut like that, so suicide becomes an option. Unfortunately, I was able to handle it. Right, that stuff didn't really bother me. It's kind of coming out here with everything that's going on and being in an uncontrolled environment that I struggle with. In a controlled environment, whether it's ultra violent or not, I know what's going on. I know how to control that. I can control my surroundings and do things to keep myself occupied. And and just those threats never really bothered me, right? It's kind of being out here and not being able to control my environment. I remember there was one time when I was younger and I was kind of struggling with a lot of stuff. I felt more comfortable in the water surfing than I did on land, because that was another environment where I knew how to control it. No matter how scary the ocean got to some people, it didn't bother me. Probably about 15 years ago, I think I was out of prison, and a massive storm hit. And there's Coast Guards out at the beach, and they're doing Coast Guard training in these massive waves. I mean, I just grabbed my swim fins and I jumped out, and I just swam. Straight out, and these are massive waves. But it didn't really bother me, and I just swam up, and the Coast Guard's looking at me like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing out here?" Right? And I just kind of gave him a wave, and I guess someone was concerned because there was like people following me. They were way up on the beach, right? And as I got swept down the ocean, I swam in and had to walk about a mile back to my truck. But it didn't bother me, It was a situation. It was a chaotic situation that I could control. It's sometimes in these moments out here, and I know that other people could relate, it's just like it's being in a situation where you can't control the pain, and that's all you want to do. You just want to manage that pain. You just want it to go away. But you have to sit with it. It's one thing I wasn't able to do is sit with my pain. I wanted to escape it. So right now it's learning how to sit with it and be okay with it. Embrace it. It's almost like a spiritual and mental jujitsu. It's finding comfort in uncomfortable situations. And if I'm able to do it in a maximum security ultraviolet prison, there should be no reason I can't learn how to do it here. But it's learning how. In there you're forced to learn how to survive. Well, some people don't. But I mean, out here it's the same thing. Sometimes you have to get with people that are going to be able to teach you how to sit with that, and how to be comfortable, and teach you the tools needed to survive. You know, it's something that I never, those certain survival tools I just didn't learn. I learned certain tools of incarceration, and maybe tools of being on the street and drug addiction. But as far as like the tools of quote unquote normal people, I just had a hard time picking those up. But there's hacks. There's a way to hack your way around that stuff. I don't know how normal people do it. I don't aspire to be a normal person. I never will. But I'm okay with the stuff that's inside of me. I'm okay with this little bit of crazy. I guess it's just learning how to cultivate it. You know, and I think it just comes from living an altruistic lifestyle, where being there for someone else and trying to make the world a better place. Fulfilling our destiny as truly the custodians of the planet, the custodians of all things. And that's why we're given the ability to reason and having different perceptions, and the ability to use our hands and create stuff is to kind of make the world a better place. But I think we've lost that. And when you don't realize that, and you've lost that that insight, it makes the world a scary, lonely place. You know? But even if it's just picking up some trash at the beach, right? You know, for every piece of plastic or paper you pick up, you made one less bit of mess out there. So when they say every little bit matters, it actually does. When I was a kid, my dad brought me out here fishing, and everyone's along the rocks, and he baits up my pole and throw my rod out, and I got two hooks with two pile worms on it and a bobber. Immediately, bam, both hooks, two big giant perch on there, and there's people around, and I'm the only one, and I must have pulled in 12 fat perch out there. Right around the corner, when you used to be able to walk around the corner. So, I mean, childhood was good, man. My dad, life was good back then as a young boy, The thought of going fishing on the weekend was that was everything. But things change, the world becomes a different place.
Thinking everything was always going to be the same.
Yeah. I know when I first started trying to microdose psilocybin, all those feelings started to come back, right? I started to have these feelings I had that I hadn't felt in 30 plus years, right? I started to get excited about things, wanted to create, wanted to be artistic, But I didn't really know how to microdose. I had nobody telling me the protocol. So I think my microdosing started to become mega dosing. And but I know the properties of healing medicine, to open up pathways that are closed, and to reconnect circuitry in the brain which has been shut down or blocked through. It could be trauma, it could be drug use, alcoholism, poor food, overstimulation. manipulation through the internet or whatever, right? There's so many things out there that stand in our way of kind of finding a purpose. And it doesn't have to be this giant purpose, right? It doesn't have to. You don't have to save the world, right? But you could rescue a cat, right? Or rescue a dog, or just be a good partner, right? Be a good friend, right? You know, be available and ready when the time does come, if it ever comes, when someone reaches out a hand and says, "Hey, I need some help," because they know you understand. They know you've been there. And you don't do it for any reward, you just do it because it needs to be done. Yeah, it's funny, suicide's a tough topic. Sometimes it's hard still for me to wrap my, I've been dealing for so long, you figure I'd be a little more comfortable talking about it, but it's not. A lot of people, when the subject comes up, they don't want nothing to do with it. They shy away, or they think of it as a weakness or something, right? And yeah, I mean, it actually takes a lot to pull that trigger, jump off that ledge, or to stick that needle in your arm. It ain't easy, because you know the end is coming, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying it's courageous. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it's not. It comes with a lot of pain. It comes with a lot of fucking pain.